Hi Edward. So I'm going to quickly zip through. This is a first pass, so this really just sort of leads us into the project, gives us a sense of the spaces. They are all actually relatively simple spaces, so I don't think there's going to be much toing and froing in terms of design. But let's start. I'm going roughly in the order of your email. View, display, perspective. So all of the spaces I've sort of created as it's a box with 200mm walls, basically. Nominal skirting board, I've shown all the skirting boards as 120mm. It's not particularly relevant unless they're huge, and then it is worth considering. Let's make that transparent again. Now you know what we're looking at. Any sort of anomalies of things that are hanging outside the box or the cut region, just assume I know what I'm doing, and these parts can be cut down. So that wire shelf can be cut to size, the top track can be cut to size, excuse me, the hanging rail can be cut to size, and obviously that component will be sitting over there. But I'm working with pre-created sub-assemblies, and to work fast I often leave them a bit rough and ready. So this one is pretty much as requested. This is downstairs entrance wardrobe, 3 shelves and some hanging space. Very uncomplicated. I have made all of the corrections in your email, but they should appear in the 2D drawings. If you want to triple check those dimensions, there's no harm in it. I'm going to price for parts only with design, and as an option I'm going to price for me to install all of this. You're not that far away from St Albans, it is manageable, and I've got friends up in Leamington, so you know, easy to do. Okay, that's that one done. I will be sending you screen grabs and 2D drawings with dimensions, and we're going to go to File, Open, under Stair, Storage Wardrobe. Now this is an interesting one. Took a while to sort of figure out what I might be looking at here and how we deal with it. So I've had a couple of ideas. I think one of these wheeled drawer units is a good idea. They're worth exploring a bit more. I've done spaces like this before, and having the unit on wheels, well, the wheels are an option, but having that on wheels means you know, you can sort of drag it in and out and explore it a bit more if you need to, but these drawers will also pull out into that gap, so maybe the wheels aren't required. Now I'm going to hide that component there and talk about that later. Now these baskets they're part of the back of door range, but you can hang them on any of the vertical components. It doesn't have to be on their back of a door set, and that is a good general purpose storage basket. And also I could move those closer together if required. We don't have to have that standard 600mm distance there, so I can close that gap up if required. These are really good for household cleaning products. It's just like a dumping basket. I think 6 is probably the maximum number you could put on there, and I don't really know what's going. Excuse me, it's talking, it makes me yawn. I don't really know what's going on in this space, or even if that space exists, but I have followed your dimensions here, and for the width and for the amount of slope you've got there. Now the other thing which I deleted, and I'm going to put back now, show, I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to hide that, is what Elfa call a storage track. Now there's a variety of different hooks and holders and things that you could put on those, It can be screwed directly to the wall, or as I've shown it here, it can be part of the track hanging system. If you only wanted one of these, and I can't see why you would want more in that space, I think what you would actually do is screw it straight to the wall, and you would actually, so you'd have it just like that, and that's instantly saved you about 100 quid in components you're not really using. Depends what that wall is. We can get into that detail later on. I could look at shelves across here. I know what these spaces are like. I've seen and worked in lots of them. People always have great ambitions for them, spend a lot of money on them, and then find it's still a fairly useless space. So my advice is keep it simple in there. I think the trolley works. I think some shelves straight across would work. Any more than that, probably not realistic, probably not going to get much more use out of the space. The only other thing you could consider is having a second or third trolley here on wheels, that if you want to get to this one, you have to pull the second one fully out of the room. If it's just storage you want, that could work. Okay, let's move on, and we're going to go to downstairs entrance. No, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. File open. I've got right, yes, upstairs hall above stairs. So this is the one where I had the dimensions completely wrong, and this is, you talked in your notes, you talked about an L shape as a possibility. The first time I had the shape, it didn't make sense, but now, having got the shape of the room correct, let's have a look at introducing that second assembly there. This is a relatively small opening space here. Let's just measure that quickly. From there to any of those vertices. Yeah, I mean, that's 500 mil. That's reasonable. You could sort of slip through that gap reasonably comfortably, and depending on whether the door is hung here or here, that would depend on which side we put the L. I'm assuming the door is hung on this side for the moment, so we put the long arm of the L on the door hinge side. I've shown the shortest, sorry, the 300mm deep shelves. I did briefly look at the 400s and 500s for this second assembly, and it just didn't make sense. It just made the depths of this region, the sort of corner of the L, very hard to reach. So on both sides I've shown 300mm deep shelves. Let's keep moving, and we're going to look at, I think we're into master bedroom now. Yep, so I've got several options for the master bedroom. Now, you talked about removing the shelf here. I think that was perhaps more applied to the other wardrobe. Whether or not it makes a mess is entirely down to the competence of the person taking it out. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of these. I've taken loads of them out. You know, if you've got the right tools and you're being respectful of the client's property, you know, we're not putting a lintel in, it's a wardrobe shelf. You will be able to take that out. It's just a case of finding the right person to do it. I could do it, but we're then into, you know, the distance and the fact that you're going to need some filler, some repainting and some drying time here. So, you know, the right person could do that, and I'd give that some thought, because this really limits what you're doing in the master bedroom wardrobes, which is why I've left that as is, because I think that is, if you're not prepared to take that shelf out, you're going to struggle to improve on that design. So this is master bedroom 2, and I'm going to look at the other master bedroom 2 options I came up with. Master bedroom 2, concept 2. So with the shelf removed, bear with me, now bear with, let's just compress 1, 2, 3, bear with me, just need to quickly suppress those. Right, so the shelf is now, shelf is now gone, and you're creating an equivalent amount of hanging rail. Just check those distances so I'm not talking rubbish. Yeah, that's 550 and that one is 1300. So you've actually got marginally less hanging with this solution, but what you do have is just a, you can get in and out the space a bit more. And what I've suggested here, because they're very low to the wall, is one of the shoe storage products that Elfa sell. Again, this is part of the back of door range, but it can be applied anywhere where you can secure one of these verticals. Ignore the fact I've gone off the skirting board here, these are easy to cut down. So there's a consideration for wardrobe 2 in the master bedroom. I actually haven't come up with any other bright ideas, unless you go to right, and the only other space is, I mean, you could possibly get a few things on this wall, but I just can't see it. Unless you take that shelf out, just leaving it be is the best solution in my opinion. Okay, let's keep moving. We're going to be going to master bedroom wardrobe 1 now. Sound of man talking to himself. That's it, and there are 2 versions of that, I think. Yeah, let's go to that one first. So similar conversation. I'm just going to put the current shelf back in. This model was being a bit sluggish, so bear with. Okay, edit and unsuppress, and then our shelf should be back in. Yeah, there it is. So there's the existing shelf. I mean, I think I've replicated what you wanted there in your notes reasonably accurately. Display perspective, let's just have a look without the transparency. 3 shelves, 3 baskets. It might be that you could get some hooks down the side here, and it doesn't all have to be centered. If you I don't know what sort of obstacles we've got around here, but you could have the baskets over to one side. That would save a small amount of money, and it would mean that you possibly had a more useful space on one side or the other, rather than having 2 small spaces either side. Let's go to, what I'm going to do first is just suppress those again. So it's the same argument as before. I mean, somebody who knows what they're doing could take that shelf out and not make a mess. It's not rocket science. So let's look at master bedroom 1 concept 2. Master bedroom 1 concept 2, there it is. Oh, and I've actually got a 3rd one there to look at. Let's look at 2 first. So yes, rebuild, just give it a minute, let it think. View, display, perspective. So it's pretty much the layout we had in concept 1, but a few more shelves and just a generally nicer, more useful presentation of the space in my opinion. And let's get rid of that. Save all, file, open, master bedroom concept 3. So the inbuilt shelf has been removed. Just wait for it to wake up. View, display, perspective, and what you can see here is I have moved the baskets over to one side in this version, and you can see you've got a space there. The reason I've got the baskets on the opposite side to the long leg of the L is that so you've got more space to reach into the baskets there. Those are on gliders, so they're going to pull out. So yes, you can see what I've done. I've put an L shape in, and is that a reasonable gap to walk through? Let's have a look. That is not correct. Why has it done that? Bear with me. Yeah, so that gap is about, it's just under 500 mil, so you know, you could squeeze through that, I'm sure. It's not going to be too much of an inconvenience. Whether you could also put the shoe racks that I showed previously up on that wall, that might be a nicer use of that space. That's a 300mm deep shelves all the way there. So what I'm going to do now is, that's everything I've worked on. I'm going to send you screen grabs, 2D images, and I'm going to price everything, and that will give you a sense of the overall project costs and how things change with changes in design. It's all going to be pretty inexpensive. The most expensive items in any of the design is these baskets. Hanging and flat shelves are absolutely cheap as chips. Okay, hope that's useful. Happy to do a Teams call, and I can screen share with you once you've refined your thoughts a little bit, or you can scribble on the drawings and send them back to me, however you want to play it. Just looking forward to getting your feedback. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye bye.